Hi, my name is Luke Dempsey, and my speech is on the current Russo-Ukrainian conflict. In 1941, Japan attacked the U.S. at Pearl Harbor, a peaceful naval station in Hawaii. This was a spark that ignited the U.S. in World War II, and soon after we were plunged into total war. This meant that gasoline, food, and building materials were rationed at home so we could support our men overseas. Families grew victory gardens in order to provide fresh vegetables and food for soldiers. Total war means that although we may be in battles across the ocean, every U.S. citizen is involved in the effort. Car manufacturers, equipment manufacturers, and the like were forced to make guns, armor, tanks to support the war effort. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Russia in general has had a complicated relationship with the U.S. since the Cold War. In recent years, the tension between the two superpowers has seemed to relax, with the relationship between Putin and former U.S. President Donald Trump. These tensions arose again recently when Russia amassed troops at the country's border with Ukraine. The last time that Russia was involved in a conflict with Ukraine was in 2014 when unmarked Russian troops took over Crimea. This happened during the pro-Russia civil unrest in Ukraine after the Ukrainian Revolution. Before this, Ukraine left control of Russia in 1991, declaring independence from the then USSR. This new conflict between the two European nations could potentially lead to a war, and since the UN is already involved, it could mean the US going to war. A war between these two superpowers, the US and Russia, could very easily turn into a selective service draft and potentially total war. The effects of total war don't end with the war. Unfortunately, following World War II, there was a baby boom, a large industrial growth, and a housing and car market explosion. This could change life in the US as we know it. Students would be withdrawn from college, fathers would have to leave their families, wives and mothers could have to leave their children. Among social changes, the economy would also change. Materials could be rationed, there could be food shortages, car and house manufacturing could halt. Factories could be forced to manufacture war materials. In the past few days, the conflict has escalated further. President Joe Biden threatened to remove Russia from SWIFT, which is a global trading economy. This would effectively shut down the Russian economy. They have, however, decided not to preemptively strike Russia in order to avoid a war at all costs. The problem with that is, if they know we're not going to preemptively strike them, what's stopping them from striking? Biden said in a press conference that the West is united and galvanized and ready to strike decisively. What he meant by this was basically, the US does not want to go to war with Russia, but if we have to, we will win. This is reminiscent of General Mad Dog Mattis saying, if you want to go to war with the US, someone else will raise your sons and daughters. A conflict between Russia and Ukraine could easily involve the US. Although there is currently no threat of war, it is growing by the day. We can't predict what will happen if the diplomatic conversations turn hostile. The possibility of total war in the U.S. once again should be enough to make every American want to educate themselves on the issue. And although it is very unlikely that we will go into nuclear war, it is always a possibility and should not be taken lightly.